Put it in a nutshell, I am an artist, I am a designer and an illustrator. I observe, I draw and I make books primarily. Drawing forms the basis of most of my work, whether it's client work or personal projects. And I'm particularly very analog in my approach to any kind of graphic design. So I play multiple roles, being a professional. So there's one side of me that I work as an illustrator for ad agencies, for advertising campaigns. There's another side which is more about creative direction for projects like NS7 Weekender, larger projects, other projects where there is a more larger scope of work which includes design, illustration, creative direction. And there's another side to my work which is self-publishing, creating my own self-initiated projects and publishing them myself, putting my own money. So I'm going to talk about my experience as an artist and as a self-initiated, self-publisher mainly. So to start off, I did not have a plan to get into this publishing industry. What happened is I used to work since early 2000s as an illustrator, and that went on for a long time. And as an illustrator, you have a very specific brief. You're given a brief, and this is how you work. You put your the target is very clear. So there is not much freedom when it comes to client work. So after a while, like working for 7-8 years, there came a point where I had to break off, kind of have a halt, take a sabbatical. So that's when I traveled. I went, visited a few rock shows, saw Pearl Jam, saw U2, spent all my money and came back to India. And that's when I wanted to, I was very clear that I wanted to make a shift in the kind of work I do. So to start off, coming back from UK, I kind of discovered that we in India we have a very vibrant street culture, so to say. Not only at the surface, not only not just visually, but also in terms of active people involvement. The kind of language that we use on the street, the kind of things we see, the kind of small ideas that we see on the street, signages, everything. It's extremely buzzy and very lively, and that is something I completely missed when I was not in India. So I thought that aspect of street culture was very inspiring, and it formed the basis of the next 5 years of my work, my self-published books. So while I had this research going on about street culture, the first topic that came to my mind was the Xerox shops of Bombay. What I found particularly interesting about the Xerox walas is that it's a classic example of jugaad branding. You just have like a small 5x5 space, get a photocopy machine, paint it yellow inside out, all nooks and corners, write like really bold letters like Xerox, Jumbo, Spiral, and you're set, this is signage. It's constant throughout, and the minute you want to, you're looking for a photocopier, all you have to look for is yellow. It's so ingrained in our senses that we don't even think twice before, actually, it's very easy, just look for yellow and then you found your photocopier. So, but besides that fact of the whole yellow-black branding, what is also interesting is the way the space looks inside and outside. Inside a Xerox shop, it's noisy. You hear the flipping of paper, the smell of toner, all these little things that make up the experience, of being in a Xerox shop. you look at the table, it's cluttered. You have staplers, you have stationery items, you all have like all kinds of papers flying around, large sheets of CAD, copies. So that also fascinated me. The insides of a Xerox shop, and the outside has their own its own little ecosystem. You have earwax cleaners sitting outside. You have the Xerox delivery cycles are painted yellow. And that's also again, so the branding is set, brand guide. So just paint yellow and it becomes your own property. So these small things, came to my notice when I further went into detail, when I started looking at the shops. So I wanted to, kind of bring all these elements, bring the experience of visiting a Xerox shop, into a concise object. And I thought that the best way to do it would be, in a book where you have the option of people flipping, people looking at all the aspects. So following some of the spreads from the books. That's how the cover looks. It's characterized by really loud light on yellow. So you have at any point of time you have like at least 10 people waiting in line outside the counter. And there are some really funny signages. There was a shop called Copyright before. And of course the inside, they have this peculiar drawer with all kinds of coin boxes. So 5 rupee coins, 1 rupee coin. Because they deal with cutters, stapler, punching machine, rulers. And this very funny signage, please keep your shoes outside. It's really bold. And everything they have to do has to be bold when it comes out. Especially the fort area in Bombay has a really high density of yellow. So you walk past it and you see yellow all over. So that was, in my head it looked more painterly than, and I can, after a point I started spotting the yellows so much that I had to do a spread. And that's how it looked in the book. There's amazing life around the whole, we have these guys selling rat poison, on the vehicle. So a lot of small things. When someone had claimed that there's no smell and it's fade proof, which is obviously a lie. Parcel delivery cycle, which when you have a huge agreement and you want to get 1,000 copies of it, then you have your guy who delivers it on a yellow cycle. And sometime back, Xerox, the company, not the Xerox, the company had issued a statement that you cannot use X while writing Xerox. So after that, a few weeks after that, you could see a lot of shops who had painted the X with a Z, just painted over it. It became ZEROX. So yeah, that was the gist of it. The book design as such was very lo-fi. Intentionally used really bad quality Xerox paper, the whitish blue, the cheapest kind of paper. So that and I wanted to keep the book very true to its essence, so I did not print it in offset. We just photocopied books. We made 50 copies. The whole book was photocopied. And post that obviously the first. I didn't think of how the financials would work. That was like the last thing on my mind. But once the book was ready, I went to a few bookstores, the chains, and I sent my book to them. Obviously, they rejected the idea of keeping a photocopied book amongst all their fancy, profitable books. But that was not the point. The point was for me to, experiment and just get this idea out. And for me, it was an idea. It was a big idea. And later in the year, a few design shops were, kind of found some value in the book, and they accepted it. But it was a big box office flop. It was just like independent cinema. Yeah. So, but what happened is I shared the book with a few creative people, few artists, and they had a very good point that they treated the book as a design object more than a book. So that was quite satisfying, and confidence grew from then. And then I thought, let's move on to the next subject. which is this project about cycles in India and the way people use it in multiple ways, for multiple things. Cycles in India have a very high degree of personalization. You modify the cycle, you customize it, you paint it, you put mud flaps, you attach, you do jugaad with your saddles, you cover it with theli just for ease of your bum, and you customize it to a high degree. You modify things, you decorate, you accessorize. So, and overall it adds to this really vibrant street culture that we have. And unless you don't look at these cycles in isolation and not against busy street, until then you don't really realize what kind of charm these cycles add. So I wanted to pull these cycles out from their original context, which is our streets, our busy streets, and put it on a very plain white background for people to actually look at the details. That was the cover. So in all my projects I try to inspirational ways to include the characteristics of the subject into the book design. So here we deliberately didn't bind the book, so it was all loose sheets tied up with a fluoro elastic band. So which is again very very jugaad in itself, because when you look at bicycle carriers, the way people tie any thread, the blue nylon thread or whatever, to just hang more things. So I was talking about the saddles and the kind of, this one had like a lot of plastic to make it as comfortable as possible. And they have tiny ones on the bar in the front for your tiny babies. I've seen like 3 tiny seats on the bar. So you just add on, you just build, modify your cycle happily. So also important is these logos on the front. It's very old, tracing your coins. So I just took sheet and traced it, put it on a spread. The rickshaw wala cycle and the Italy wala. So what it also did, the unique binding was that it kind of juxtaposed some images with others. So if you take this page out, it's a complete image, and that is a separate image. So that kind of also with just 2 very different things coming together and making it look really strange in a book design. That's how it looked when you pulled it out of the page. We had a temple on a cycle. And this guy had his cycle looked like a vineyard, filled with grapes. Sadak ka Badshah. So, I mean, cycles really start to reflect the owner and their taste, what kind of movies they see, what kind of songs they listen to. He's asking the car behind to stop. So, cycles are not just, in India especially, cycles don't end up looking like just a vehicle. It's more like, okay, it's my thing. I'll decorate it. And we Indians, we hate standardization. I think we love to, even if you have a laptop, we make sure we put our stickers, we put our whatever you can add to it to make it look yours. So I think that psychology also makes the cycle of India unique. So once I had this book ready, I wrote to a few people and I got a chance to exhibit motorcycle at the Bicycle Film Festival in Helsinki. And that was a very different experience, because the way these guys abroad look at Indian cycles completely changed, because for me it was very new. Back then cycling was more of a hipster thing in the West, back then. But once I did my project, after that I realized that people abroad, at least, they look at it as a very very cool thing. So whereas for me it was just a regular street object. And I also wrote to Paul Smith because he has a very unique way of using cycling and cycling culture in his work, in all his design work, even if it's like, he has designed a lot of jackets, cycling jackets, he designed a lot of shorts. He does use cycling graphics on his clothes, on his shoes, small things. So I sent a copy and they were quite keen to collaborate, and that's how Motorcycle Project became a collaborative series of 4 t-shirts which went worldwide. Yeah, that's about on motorcycle. So during that time, I had this very funny experience. I was on the Western Express Highway in a cab, and at night at some 3 a.m. and I see this huge blue thing passing next to my window, and it didn't end. It went on and on. So after a while, when it actually passed, that's when I figured that it's actually a helicopter which is covered in blue tar, in Tatpatri, this material. It was a huge helicopter which was almost like 100 feet on a carrier being transported somewhere, probably a defense helicopter. So that's what actually hit me, and I thought that, there are multiple ways in which people use this material. And again, like, the jugaad factor is big time. It's used big time in our local street life. So then I started spotting these to a point that it became really evident, and I started documenting it all. I had a lot of huge bank of pictures. And the next project came to be Bluetooth. About the use of Tatpatri in India. Everyone must be familiar with this landing into Bombay, especially during monsoons when the blues are nice and clean. So again, the book design, things like the blue thread for binding was something that we picked from the subject itself. It's moisture proof. You can put it on the road. There won't be issues of water seeping in. You can just keep your wares and sell whatever the hell you want. To prevent foreshadow. And this guy probably was too lazy to paint his signboard white. He just covered it with a blue tar. It's probably more cheaper than to actually paint your signage into white. Just cover it with a blue tar. It's really cheap and easy. Construction, Antilla, and we gave a piece of blue tar free. So these are some of the spreads. There are more. I made about 26 drawings. It's all in the book. It's kept right here. So these 3 projects, once I finished them, I had some time to look back and kind of assess my work over the last 3 years, 4 years, and that's when I noticed that all these subjects have a very DIY approach, a very analog approach, which is also a strong point in my work. I feel very hands-on, do-it-yourself kind of approach, because all the book design, we make sure that me and my small team of senior Aditi, part of my team, so we actually went to the printers ourselves. We used to document it ourselves. It was a very hands-on approach to work. It's in the same vein as decorating a cycle or putting up a Tatpatri on your shop, to prevent leakage or whatever. So I think that's a common connect between my projects and the way it turns out and the subjects that I kind of cover in my work. Self-publishing, one more challenge with self-publishing is that we have zero finance to work with, and I can't possibly sell the idea of making a book about Tatpatris to a publisher. Who would want that? So the only choice was to go out myself and make my own book, have limited copies for the first run, and then maybe if it does well, take it slow, go for another run of copies. So that's been my approach throughout. Like the Xerox zine, the first issue was first edition was about 50 issues, 60 copies, and we did a rerun, we did a reprint after a year because it all got sold out, and whatever some few shops that were selling it like Filter and used to sell it online. So it did well. I mean, people, there's a very limited crowd who would actually want to, collect such a book. So I think that crowd appreciated it. With Motorcycle project, we printed 250 copies. So it's been a very gradual decrease, in the number of copies that we print. And, I've taken it very step by step. So, I didn't jump into, okay, I have an idea and I'll make like 3,000 copies of my first book. So just hold on, boss. Take it easy. So I've been going slowly, and it's a gradual, kind of journey. Another point is making mistakes. Then I worked on Xerox wala. There were obviously very clear mistakes on the first book, especially the quality. I mean, yeah, it was supposed to be really raw and lo-fi, but in the second book, in Motorcycle project, we took care that, it's something that even the bookstores might appreciate. Not because of the bookstores, but I wanted it to reach a wider audience, not just really nerdy people who find that interesting. So consciously we tried to kind of raise the level of production, get into offset, get into like detailed screen printing. So that has been a good learning point. Going slow has helped to kind of learn from your mistakes, because as a self-publisher you don't have like an editor, you don't have anyone on top of you. So you are the only person, your own critique. So you have to learn from your mistakes. You don't have option there. And before I end, 100% is another project founded by me and my batchmate and co-designer Lokesh Karikar. 100% is for visual artists who have a very hybrid kind of zone of work. They don't fit into a very strong, like I don't only do cartoons, I also do this, I also do that. So we have a very wider appetite for a wider aesthetic sense and a unique language. So this zine was for people like those. And it's a theme-based zine. It's called 100%, and we followed up with a theme for every issue. This was the cover of 100% Now. That's done by Samir. He's sitting right here. Raise your hand. This was the second last issue, 100% local. So typically me and Lokesh, we come up with a theme for every issue. We handwatch 10 to 15 artists. We select their work and we approach 10 to 15 artists who we think, whose work might fit the given theme. That's our approach. And once we give the theme to the artist, once the PDF, the invite reaches the artist, we do not interfere. 95% of the time we do not interfere. 95% of the time we have been surprisingly happy about the output, because we've not had to worry about quality. So I think in that sense, when you give freedom to artists, they can surprise you in a nice way. That has been a learning for us. So 100% is not limited to Indian artists. We also involve artists all over the world. People who have a similar way of working or similar approach to visual art. That's Rishi Dev from Delhi, part of 100% India. These are 3 of our issues. So it's been quite fulfilling, and I think the major takeaway from me is magic happens when you work freely. So I'd like to end with that. And if you like to see our publications, they're all right there in the end. Please feel free to look through and shoot any questions if you have. Thank you.